Welcome to the fifth episode of the Clive experiment. This week we're going to have our usual book review. We're going to discuss the WEF and their theory on world population. We're going to look into GP appointments and some financials. And then we're going to have a look at intermittent fasting. So without further ado, let's dive into our first book of the week. The Great Ideas of Philosophy is a book written by Daniel Robinson, a distinguished professor of philosophy at the Georgetown University. The book provides an overview of some of the most influential ideas in the field of philosophy, including the nature of reality, the meaning of life, and the concept of justice. In the book, Robinson begins discussing the ancient philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. He highlights their key ideas, such as Socrates' emphasis on self-examination, Plato's theory of forms, and Aristotle's belief on being virtuous. Robinson then goes in to discuss the medieval philosophers like Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, and Dante Alighieri. He explores their thoughts on topics such as the existence of God, the nature of soul, and the ideas of a just society. Robinson also delves into the ideas of modern philosophers, including René Descartes, John Locke, Immanuel Kant, and Friedrich Nietzsche. He provides an overview of their key concepts and how they have shaped the field of philosophy. Robinson then concludes by discussing contemporary philosophy, including the works of Martin Heidegger, Jean-Paul Sartre, Michael Foucault. He explores their ideas on the natures of existence, the meaning of life, and the concept of power. Yet, throughout the book, Robinson provides a clear and concise explanation of the complex philosophies that now are accessible to everybody in today's world. Overall, The Great Ideas of Philosophy is a comprehensive and engaging overview of some of the most important concepts in the field of philosophy. Robinson's writing is accessible, informative, and provides a valuable introduction to these great ideas that have continued to shape the world we live in to this day. All in all, I found this book incredibly informative. It's a really good cross-sectional slice of all the philosophies of all the ages. It's a great little taster for each individual philosopher. It's also a great way of discovering which philosophers you want to develop and investigate further. All in all, this book is a 30-hour read, so it is a big book to read, and it does take a little bit longer than a week. However, it is well worth the time and the effort. And it has given me a few really good deductions and led me down the lines of really focusing on politics as a main area where perhaps the history of the philosophers have sort of foretold the issues we were going to have right now in our political system. And maybe we can find a way of improving politics through the ancient philosophers. I mean, let's think about philosophers and politics. With everything I read, I'm constantly searching for answers and looking to books to expand my knowledge and clear a path to my next step in life. I think that there is a lot of wisdom to be gained from looking to the past for knowledge, then comparing what we know today. Politics is a perfect example of old knowledge, perhaps guiding us to a better future. Socrates believed that every citizen has a moral obligation to be involved in politics. He argues that the well-being of the state is directly linked to the moral character of its citizens, and therefore it is essential for everyday individuals to take an active role in shaping the policies of the state. He believed that the only way to achieve a just society was for citizens to be informed and participate in the political process. Aristotle believed that every individual should participate in politics, but for different reasons. He argued that political involvement is necessary for the development of an individual's moral character. He believed that the act of participating in the political process would help individuals develop their reasoning skills, a sense of justice, and compassion for others. Plato, however, believed that only a select few should be involved in politics, specifically those who possess the knowledge and wisdom required to govern justly. He argued that the average individual was not equipped with the necessary skills to participate in politics, and that their involvement would lead to chaos. Plato believed in philosopher kings, individuals who possessed both wisdom and knowledge, were best suited to govern. However, in conclusion, ancient philosophers held different beliefs on the different roles individuals should play in politics. While Socrates and Aristotle believed every citizen should be involved, Plato believed that only a select few should participate. Regardless of the views, the philosophies of these great thinkers continues to shape the way we think about politics and our individual roles within our politics. My thoughts tend to agree with Aristotle and Socrates, as I believe more people should become involved in politics. A greater level of participation leads to a more diverse perspectives and ideas being represented, leading to more equitable and inclusive decision making, which leads to more equitable and inclusive decision making without legislative enforcement, like we are seeing today. Secondly, when a large proportion of the population is politically engaged, increases the accountability of our elected officials, as they are more likely to be held accountable for their actions. Currently, nobody is holding our politicians to account for upholding their political promises. Additionally, political involvement allows individuals to have a voice in shaping the policies that affect their lives, leading to greater engagement and satisfaction within the political process. Finally, political involvement helps to foster a sense of community, a shared responsibility for the well-being of society. By becoming involved in politics, individuals can work together towards a common goal, promoting a sense of unity and collective purpose. In short, political involvement by a broader cross-section of society leads to a more representative and accountable and engaged political system. And this is so true. Ultimately, we all need to be more active in our political areas. We totally understand that there's certain areas that we can't dictate and we can't control. However, at the moment, it really feels to me especially that politics is being sensationalized either far right or far left. And nobody seems to want to just bring it to the middle. Most people are happy just with politics in the middle. Let the political stance be center, leaning either slightly left or slightly right, depending on the politicians that are in for the day. But the extreme lefts and the extreme rights, they need to be controlled for the greater good. And we do that through our political system. Ultimately, if everybody turns out and votes, we will get a good cross-section of the political structure of our country. And ultimately, the majority will always be center, leaning slightly left or slightly right. That is how it should be, in my opinion. I think everybody should take more time in becoming more politically active. It is important for the state of our nations, for the individuals to become more politically active and vocal in our political desires. Ultimately, nobody wants to give up their lives and go and run for politics. There is only a select few people that want to deal with that type of stress and that type of persecution and that type of being in the public eye. However, it is important for everybody to identify people that they deem worthy of those positions and who has the best interests of the community, not the financial institutions that maybe fund them. The WEF has been in everything we see lately. WEF are the butt of, depending on which side of the political fence you lead, are either evil, deranged lunatics bent on world domination, or people just trying to do their best and save the planet and focus on everything that needs to change. One of the darkest aspects of the ideology of the WEF is its long-term focus on overpopulation. Many of the WEF believe that there is far too many people in the world, and that population growth must be curbed to reverse climate change and stop food shortages. According to those exposed, this view of overpopulation is a significant cause to climate change due to the amount of carbon emissions caused by each human being. The less people on the planet, then the less carbon emissions, and the more progress towards a sustainable net zero carbon emissions future. However, I feel that people should be left free to do and live their lives the way they want. I don't believe we as a race need to change the way we live on a massive scale so quickly. I think it's important that people are given the opportunity to develop at the pace they want to develop. Developing countries should be allowed to develop just the same as we were allowed to develop in the early ages. We should not be slowing down the development of China and India and all these bigger countries. We shouldn't be slowing them down. We should be allowing them to pick up and grow and find their happy medium and develop new technologies and new ways of making their countries better. And the richer those countries become, the more they will make themselves better. But it's up to us in the first world, A, to give the education and show the leadership. I totally agree. However, we shouldn't be cutting our nose off to spite our face and giving ourselves expensive energy and making it so that life is uncomfortable for us. What we should be doing is educating, continuously educating and looking for ways to make things better without affecting people. And the best way to do that, I believe, is the capital system. Where shareholders are held accountable, businesses need to make profit. In order to make profit, you need to be the most efficient you can be. And in order for that to happen, you need to revolutionize the way things are done. The more the world grows in population, the more we're going to need our engineering brains to solve our complex problems. We don't need to talk about how the world is going to be overpopulated. What we need to talk about is how we solve the problems of today. And that's where I'm going with this excerpt today. I'm not painting the WEF to be this ultra seedy, underhanded government or non-government organization. What I'm trying to point out is they have an agenda, and that agenda is not necessarily, in my opinion, conducive to humanity. So, the world population is currently sitting at 8 billion people. The latest projections by the United Nations suggest that the global population will grow from around 8.5 billion in 2030 to 9.7 billion in 2050 and up to 10.4 billion in 2100. Now, this gives us 75 years to improve, to get things running more efficiently before we have to worry about controlling any populations. Now, what I found interesting as I've spent this week, I started looking at some statistics. I pulled up the populations of some of the biggest countries in the world, and what I looked for was their density of people per kilometer squared. So countries like China, who have huge 1.4 billion people, they have a density of around 153 people per kilometer squared. India is more densely populated at 1.3 billion people, or almost 1.4 billion people, but they have a density of population of 464 people per kilometer squared. Now, judging by these bits of information, it clearly shows that these countries are able to maintain a population at a density of at least 460. India predominantly manages to feed their entire population on a square kilometer, on a density of square kilometer of 460 people per square kilometer. Then if you go down to Bangladesh, although their population is much smaller, so is their country, and they're managing to feed their people on a density of 1265. Now this clearly shows that the world can survive with a lot more people, and according to my mathematics, we could easily cope with 10.4 billion on today's current knowledge. Now, where the WEF say the world population is going to cause a massive carbon footprint and I totally understand that. However, as an engineering species, as a species that have solved complex problems, we should be solving the complex problems that the global warming is creating, rather than trying to stop global warming from happening. Because ultimately, it's going to happen. We're not going to be able to slow down the entire world in time for it to be perfect. We're not going to meet any of these targets that the governments are talking about, because the world simply cannot do that and function in its current economic way. So what we need to do is we need to accept that although we want to get to that net zero, that would be that's our utopian vision for the future. The likelihood of us hitting that net zero is very, very low. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, is rather than focusing on changing the way we are, let's focus on engineering things better. Let's focus on educating the developing countries quicker. Let's give them the resources to educate themselves quicker. Let's buy their products, but force them to work in a way that's more conducive to the way we want them to work, without sacrificing their opportunities to develop their countries. Or taking advantage of them, should we say. For me, the massive issue with world population is hunger. And we talk a lot about how we're going to support the amount of food people need. I did some research, and although there is no truth or single correct answer when it comes to dealing with a vegetable garden size, Some sources say that 100 square feet per person is the magic number, which is only 10 square meters essentially. Now, the world population is 8 billion right now, and the usable land on Earth is 150 million square kilometers, which roughly equates to around 53.69 people per square kilometer throughout the entire planet, or our world, of usable land. If we do get to the expected population size of 10.4 billion by 2021, the only thing that changes is the density per square kilometer, and that changes to about 70 people per square kilometer on the entire world. Now, that means that the average amount of land required to feed a person is 10 square meters, and the current space allocation per person is 18 square meters, and it's going to drop down to 14.3 square meters. Now, that sounds like not very much land. However, we don't take into account a square meter and its vertical height. Now, the beautiful thing about the future is, as long as we can control our power requirements, and as long as we can get really clean and really efficient power, we can literally grow 100 meters in the air. And that is where the main changes in the world will come. When we accept that we have to use engineering methods to solve the world's problems, we have to accept that things aren't going to inherently change. But what we should be doing is creating as much green energy as we can, using our fossil fuels as cleanly and as environmentally friendly as we can. That means maybe converting, methane into clean hydrogen and storing the carbon in the ground. Why get rid of a perfect, viable fuel source to create power that can be done cleanly? It just maybe costs a bit more. Engineer the solutions. If we can engineer the solutions, we'll have enough power to convert any seawater into fresh water. We'll have enough power to grow any amount of food vertically up to 100 meters in the sky. We can make enough food. Food will never be a problem, and the carbon footprint can change over time. But we need to accept that we can't change it as quickly as we want to change it, because that's going to be the detriment of human life. And that's my point. That's my main focus, is how can we make human life as good as possible while focusing on all the negative things that we create. But not, rather than running away from them and persecuting ourselves, design a solution to reduce the load on the planet. And again, I did a cost comparison. So how much does every household generate in CO2 a year? I did two comparisons. I went onto a UK site and I went onto an American site, and I did my family. We're a family of 4. We operate 2 combustion engines, automobiles. We eat meat 2 to 3 times a week, mostly whole foods. We don't really go overseas on holiday. We haven't done in the last 2 years. And we're moderate consumers, and we buy quality rather than quantity. So the furniture we buy and the luxuries that we buy, we try and buy them so that they last. We don't change our phones every year. We don't change our telly every 2 years. We keep everything until the point where it is no longer fit for use, or it fails. And you can see it clear. We're actually still above the UK average in carbon footprint. Now, this is per person. They expect the footprint to be, my footprint is 10 tons. And the UK average footprint is 9.5 tons. And the world average is 6.3 tons. So again, these figures don't seem to be a massive amount of carbon dioxide, of CO2. And if we compare my family's usage to American family, 30% better than an American family, yet the calculation is still 4 tons more than the UK calculation. I don't think these figures are going to cause a massive change in the world. And I think we can easily adjust things simply by just changing the way we live and accepting that money is an important key indicator on how people control their consumption and their way of life. And the more government moves away from controlling people's money, the more the free market system will allow people to control the way they choose to manage their money. If a company is a heavy producer or if a company uses a lot of CO2 or creates a lot of CO2 in the creation of their product, That should be represented in the price of the product. But again, it needs to be controlled in a slow and steady manner. It needs to be controlled in a manner that doesn't affect the livelihoods of people, because that is the most important thing. Is people need to be able to live, and people need to be able to eat, and people need to be able to enjoy their time on this planet. However, people don't need to have every single luxury. People don't need to eat meat every day. People don't need to go everywhere in a car. There is this fine line where responsibility can come into play, and we can slowly change things by changing people's mindsets, rather than telling people and forcing them to go in a certain way. We all saw how well it went in America when they stopped people drinking alcohol. Education is the foundation of civilization, providing individuals with the knowledge, skills, and critical thinking abilities needed to address complex challenges and improve their lives. In the context of population control and preserving the planet, education plays a crucial role in fostering awareness and understanding of interrelated human activities, the environment, and the depletion of its resources. An educated population is better equipped to make informed decisions about their impact on the planet, such as reducing the carbon footprint, conserving resources, and to find sustainable solutions to global issues such as overconsumption, environmental degradation, and climate change. Population should not be an issue on this planet for the next 75 years. At that point, engineering and the capitalist system will have changed the way we do certain things to allow people to survive on the planet. The more we educate people, the more we will conserve our environments. The more reason we give people to conserve their environment, the more reason they'll do it. Developing countries need to be encouraged to conserve their resources. They need to be encouraged to do what's best for their areas and their planet. And ecotourism and those types of wealth creators are huge for developing countries. Education is probably one of the most important ways people can preserve the planet. Rather than taking things away from people, education and community spirit and responsibility, I would say, are the key fundamental factors that we need to focus on in order to make sure our country and our world is preserved. So this week, every week I look more and more into the NHS. I choose a block of the NHS and I start researching and trying to develop my knowledge on an area that I believe our country is failing. Health and the healthcare system are so important to the well-being of people. And I want myself and my family and my country to get the best healthcare that the country can afford. But at the same time, I also don't believe that throwing loads of money at an industry that's failing is going to solve a problem. I think it's really important for us to identify the problems within the NHS, problems within the system, and then design a system that is better suited to the way the country is and the way the country's going. Now, I found a very interesting article, and it was a study by a group of research students, and they were talking about 40% of all GP appointments in England consist of frequent attenders. So 40% of all appointments are around 10% of the people that attend the doctor. That is a scary number. And the fact that we got an aging population and we're getting more and more people getting sick and more people on antidepressants, more and more people living with pain than we had 10 years ago, you start to think, where are we going wrong? If we're in a world where we have increased access to high quality food, we have increased access to the understanding of health and well-being, we have increased health and safety and increased workers' rights and increased lifestyle, increased luxuries, yet we're still unhealthier than we were 10 years ago, then there's a serious problem that we need to get down to the bottom of. And we need to start figuring out why people are getting sick, and why people are staying sick, and why people are going to the doctors as much as they are. So here's a bit of data that I pulled up this week. And basically it is frequent attenders now make up to 40% of appointments in England. The UK average of visits to the doctor per year is 7 times a year, whereas countries like America are only 4 times a year. Now, I went onto the Bupa website and I got a cost for a private doctor's consultation. And the cost for a private doctor's consultation is around £75 per 15 minutes. Now, if the average person went to a doctor 7 times a year, and the population of the country is 68 million, that would equate to the total visits to the doctor a year of 481 million visits to the doctor, which would come to a cost of 36 billion just in visiting your GP. Now, if we reduce that 7 to 4, even on the £75 Bupa rate, we would drop to around 275 million appointments, and that would cost the country 20 billion, which is a net saving of 15 billion a year, just by reducing the amount of visits from a doctor to 7 to 4. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, every doctor in the country was private, just for argument's sake, and the government had a scheme where they paid the doctors privately to see their patients, but the doctors didn't get a set wage for how many patients they have. They only got paid by the patients that came and saw them. So if they weren't giving enough appointments, they weren't making enough money. Let's say we got the cost of a GP appointment down to £50 per appointment, and we still did 7 appointments a year. We never improved the health of the population, we just controlled the cost. That would result in a £24 billion a year bill. Now imagine we drop it down to 4 visits a year at £50. That brings it down to 13 billion, which, if we compare it to where it is and where it could be, that's another 10 billion saved. So essentially we could be saving around 23 billion just in the fact of getting people down to 4 visits a year on average. Obviously you'll always have more, and controlling the amount people can go to the doctor. Now, I grew up in Africa, and we had private healthcare in Africa, and it was very good healthcare, but yes, it does cost money. If you look up something like Discovery Health, for example, they charge like something like 6,000 Rand a year, and they give you a full comprehensive medical package where you can go to the doctor so many times, you can go to the dentist so many times, you go to the optometrist so many times, you can go to the hospital when you need to go to the hospital, you have your chronic medicine, you have your medication, you have all these things as part of your package. What if we change the NHS from a national health service to a national health scheme, and we privatized the NHS, and everybody in the country got a national health scheme, and they got this like medical account where we got so many visits to the doctor, a year to a value of X, so many visits to the optometrist a year to the value of X, and if you didn't use it, it carried over. So let's say you're an incredibly healthy person like myself, you never go to the doctor, you're incredibly healthy, you could build up your medical savings to a huge sum of money by the time you get to retirement age. And with that money that you've saved in that pot for retirement age, that would look after you through your retirement years. I wonder if we had a look at restructuring the National Health Service, if that would make more sense to the way we spend the money in the NHS. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that? Because if we, as a nation, had a national sponsored health scheme that paid our private doctors, and our private doctors were all ultra efficient because they want to make as much money as they can, the prices are semi-controlled because it's government as the customer, but people manage their own budgets. So healthy people that look after themselves, they have a really healthy budget for when life hits you and you do develop cancer or you do develop a disease or something that's unplanned for. But for the people that don't look after themselves, the people that don't look after their bodies, and the people that deteriorate over the years, they won't be able to just go to the doctor unlimited. Going to the doctor unlimited is what allows people to not take any responsibility in their life. Now, I'm not saying there shouldn't be a safety balance for, people who are in bad health. I'm not saying that we should turn our backs on them. What I'm saying is there should be some sort of a check and balance to reduce the amount that people go to the doctors unnecessarily, or increase the amount of check and balance where people take ownership of their health because they know they don't have an unlimited amount of money they could just go spend at the NHS. I wonder if this would make life better for us. I wonder if this would change the way the National Health Service runs, and I wonder if it would actually reduce the costs. Like all government institutions, people tend to work very hard, but they don't tend to focus in the areas that need to be improved upon. And I think when you're operating a business that's really focused on making a profit and needs to make a profit in order to survive, things become a lot more efficient. Doctors' surgeries will become a lot more efficient. They'll develop ways where they can assist customers without having the actual GP, which will reduce costs. They'll figure out ways, but they'll do what they can to keep their business models profitable. But at the same time, if a customer is not happy with the service they're getting, they'll go somewhere else. So I think standards will increase. And if the government underwrote an insurance policy that was for the people of the country, it would be easier to control people doing, health service tourism. Because if you don't have the health scheme, you can't come and use the NHS. You'll have to use it privately, and the business they'll be geared for that type of business. I definitely believe, the more I research, the more I feel that this could be a real solution to not only the NHS but also to the education system. If every child had a fixed amount of money given to a school that they attended, the school would be more focused on achieving high quality outcomes to get the best children. The better the school, the more picky they can be. I just think it's worth thinking about. I think sometimes something, just because we've had it for a long time, doesn't mean it's the best way to do things. Let's face it, there's several ways we can reduce the number of visits we do to the doctor every year. We have preventative measures, encouraging people to maintain a healthy lifestyle through regular exercise, healthy eating, avoiding harmful habits like smoking and drinking alcohol excessively. We can prevent the onset, and by doing this, we can prevent the onset of chronic conditions. We can focus on health education. We can start educating, especially our young children and people, on self-care and the early signs and symptoms of illness, to empower people to make informed decisions when seeking medical attention. We can improve access to health information, making reliable health information widely available to help people better understand the conditions and make more informed decisions when seeking medical attention. And most importantly, we can improve the way the NHS runs. We can improve the way the NHS is managed and make it more streamlined to allow more money to go to the services that are desperately needed. Now, the next question is, do you take ownership of your health? Now that we know that it costs so much money to keep our doctors going, some people are going to the doctors on average 7 times a year. And when you look at that and you think to yourself, well, I'm a 40-year-old man. I've probably been to the doctor 3 times in the last 10 years. And you start thinking to yourself, well, what am I doing differently that these other people aren't? And I think it is taking ownership of our health, taking ownership of our mental well-being, and taking ownership of our body. And one of the most important things that I've done in the entire experiment is continuously try to be the best version of myself. And that includes looking after myself and my mental well-being. It is important to look after our health because good health is crucial to both our physical and mental well-being. When we are healthy, we can perform our daily tasks effectively, enjoy our lives to the fullest, pursue our goals and our dreams. On the other hand, when our health is compromised, it can affect every aspect of our lives and limit our ability to do the things we love. Taking care of our health involves engaging in healthy habits such as eating a balanced diet, exercising regularly, getting enough sleep, managing stress, and seeking medical attention when necessary. By prioritizing our health, we can improve our quality of life and avoid many preventable diseases and conditions. Today I want to talk about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is a dietary pattern that involves periods of restricted calorie intake, alternating with periods of normal or increased calorie intake. This approach to eating has been shown to have several health benefits, including improving insulin sensitivity, reducing oxidative stress, and promoting cellular repair. Moreover, incorporating intermittent fasting into our diets can also help reduce our strain on the planet's resources by reducing the food waste, decreasing greenhouse gas emissions associated with agriculture and food production, and lowering our carbon footprint. There are many different types of intermittent fasting, and there's very different methods. And I think for myself, I do a fusion style of intermittent fasting where I predominantly do a 16-8 fast on most days. I do a regular once a day meal most weeks. I do a 24 to 36 hour fast every week. I try and do a 72 hour fast once a month, and I try and do a 120 hour fast once or twice a year. Now, I believe, and again, it's different for everybody, I believe that breaking up your fasting routine into these different cycles allows your body to adapt quicker to different changes in circumstances. I've found that by adopting an intermittent fasting lifestyle, I've got my weight under control and I've improved my health. I feel that when you're in your fasted state, it is some of the best mental clarity you ever get, and I always enjoy my periods of long fast because it makes me feel so good. The main benefits of fasting can be broken down hour to hour. So after 4 to 8 hours, your blood glucose levels fall and the body stops producing insulin. Improving insulin resistance. Fasting can have a significant impact on insulin levels in the body, which can result in a variety of health benefits. During periods of fasting, insulin levels decrease, allowing the body to switch from burning glucose for energy to burning stored fat. This shift in energy utilization can help improve insulin sensitivity, which is crucial for maintaining healthy blood sugar levels and reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes. Additionally, lower insulin levels during fasting can stimulate the production of growth hormone, which has several benefits for overall health and wellness. Moreover, the decrease in insulin levels can lead to an increase in cellular repair and autophagy, the natural process of breaking down and recycling cellular components which help us keep our body functioning. The insulin has a crazy effect on the body, and fasting can significantly impact the levels of insulin in our body. After 12 hours, all the food in your body has been metabolized, and the body's production of human growth hormone begins. Human growth hormone. Human growth hormone is a hormone produced by the pituitary gland that plays a vital role in the growth and development of human body. During fasting, the levels of human growth hormone in the body can increase, providing several benefits to health and wellness. For example, human growth hormone can help increase muscle mass and improve physical performance, boost the immune system, and promote cell repair. Additionally, human growth hormone has anti-aging effects and has been linked to an increase in longevity. While fasting can naturally increase human growth hormone levels, it is important to note that human growth hormone supplements are not recommended, as they can have serious side effects and may not provide the same benefits as the body's natural human growth hormone produced. Human growth hormone is one of those hormones that the body produces that, affects every single part of the body. The brain, the heart, the blood vessels, every organ. It is an amazing hormone. It is one of the most amazing things the body produces. Apart from dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and all these other, our bodies are like chemical plants, and human growth hormone is one of those key chemicals that the body produces that intermittent fasting has an amazing effect on. At 14 to 16 hours, the body starts to use fat stored for energy, and at 18 hours, the body is only using fat for energy, and human growth hormone production increases massively. After 24 hours, glycogen stores are depleted. Autophagy begins, and the body starts to produce ketones. Autophagy. Autophagy is the natural process in the human body that helps to maintain cellular health by breaking down and recycling damaged or unnecessary cellular components. This process can provide several benefits for the human body, including supporting the immune system by removing harmful pathogens, including the risk of chronic disease like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and helping to maintain cellular homeostasis. Autophagy also plays a role in maintaining the body's energy levels and promoting longevity. Overall, autophagy is a crucial process for maintaining optimal health and functioning. Now, autophagy is a new concept that's really been thrown around now, and anybody who's done any research into intermittent fasting understands the benefit of autophagy. It clears away dead cells, it fights infectious diseases, it helps remove cancers from the body, it helps reduce aging, it literally it does a full scan of your entire body, and it takes down every damaged, contaminated bit of cell and dissolves them into some sort of liquid, and then uses it to rebuild more key parts of the body. It's like a recycling system on steroids. And autophagy, coupled with human growth hormone, spares your muscles. It ensures that your body doesn't go, when you're in your fasted state, and start eating away your muscle mass, which a lot of people fear that does. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't eat away some of your muscle mass, but it doesn't eat away a lot of it. The whole point is the body's designed to keep your muscle strength. This is a system that was developed when we were, hunter-gatherers, and we needed to function at our best even when we were hungry. So our bodies were designed to protect what's important. And unfortunately, due to our Western diets, we don't get to benefit from autophagy very much, because we never get into this fasted state. We never go 24 hours without eating. We never go 36 hours without eating. We might go 8 hours on our sleep time, or maybe 10 hours if we've missed breakfast. But then we consume a huge amount of calories throughout the day, and we never get into that point where the body is actually running in a deficit. And this is one of the key things that I believe could help people's health. Not only will it help the natural well-being of ourselves, but it also reduce our impact on the environment. Because on average, since I started fasting, I dropped around 4,000 calories a week just naturally. That's 2 days worth of food a week. And I'm definitely not fading away. At 36 to 48 hours, autophagy increases further, and the body starts to be reduced inflammation. And at 72 hours, a complete immune system reset occurs. Fasting has been shown to have an impact on the immune system, with some studies suggesting that it can, in result, reset the immune system. During fasting, the body undergoes several changes that can help improve immune function. For example, fasting can increase the production of white blood cells, which plays a crucial role in fighting infections and diseases. Additionally, fasting can also increase the production of cytokines, which are signaling molecules that help regulate the immune response. By reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, fasting can also help improve the overall health of the immune system. However, it is important to note that the effects of fasting on the immune system can vary from person to person, and depending on various factors such as the duration and the type of fast, it is also always best to consult a healthcare professional before starting any new fasting regime. People's immune systems are run down. We don't sleep enough, we don't eat well enough, we don't put ourselves in areas where our immune system ever gets tested. And one of the benefits of intermittent fasting is it carries out a full reset of your immune system. Even today, what I find is when I'm in a fasted state, and I'm burning around ketone levels of a 1.5 or a 2 mole per liter, I feel great. My mental agility and my alertness feels 10 to 20 times better than when I'm living on glucose. And this again causes me to want to fast these long fasts. And it's almost like when I'm not fasting, or when I'm in my eat zones, I'm prioritizing myself to eat good quality food. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't wait to get back into ketosis. I don't really want to come out of ketosis because I feel so good. And then you find that you start giving up things like giving up Coca-Cola and giving up chocolate bars, and you start finding yourself staying away from like these really simple carbohydrates, or these high sugar carbohydrates, because you don't want to go out of ketosis. You don't want to lose that feeling, that mental wellness. And again, I believe that if people change their lifestyles and they started doing things like this a bit more, and they started researching and they started experiencing it, would they all of a sudden be more motivated? Would they all of a sudden want to go and change the world. I think intermittent fasting is one of those great things that allows people to become the best version of themselves. And the more they work at intermittent fasting, and the more they start to learn their bodies, and they start to feel and listen to what their body's saying, the better they start to feel. And I started this process 2 years ago, and intermittent fasting was one of the first things that I started doing. And 2 years on now, it is still one of the top things that I believe makes me feel good, not just physically, but mentally too. And just a little disclaimer, it is important to note that intermittent fasting may not suit everyone, especially those who have certain medical conditions or who are pregnant or breastfeeding. It's always a good idea to speak to a healthcare professional before starting a new diet or exercise program. And then lastly, intermittent fasting can be a simple and effective way to improve your overall health and well-being. While it may not be suitable for everybody, it is a great option for those looking to lose weight, improve insulin sensitivity resistance, and benefit their brain health. In conclusion, both education and intermittent fasting have the potential to positively impact our health and the health of our planet. Education will empower individuals with the knowledge and skills necessary to make informed decisions about their impact on the environment, while intermittent fasting helps reduce resource consumption and the strain on the planet's ecosystem. By embracing these two concepts, we can work towards a more sustainable and healthy future for all. And that pretty much brings today's episode to a conclusion. I just want to thank you again for taking the time to watch this video. And secondly, I just want to say, there is something about taking the time to start learning the world around you. Now, I started this journey 2 years ago, and only this year have I just really discovered the world of actual research and starting to dive deeper into areas of society that I believe aren't working correctly. The more I do it and the deeper I go, the better I start to feel about how society runs. And the more I start to realize that conspiracy theories often have some truth, but I don't think they're all the truth. And mainstream media and the news and every book we read has some truth, but just not all the truth. And I think it's important when we read stuff, look at the data. Don't look at how things are written. Don't look at how they're trying to sensationalize a specific data set. Write the data out and see what it's telling you. Because when you look at financials, and when you look at the money, or when you look at the numbers don't lie. And it's an incredible way of getting a little bit of clarity into how society is running, and to see how certain things that might be in the media right now have such huge political agendas that they're not actually issues. They're just people trying to get something more out of their lives. They're just a particular section of the country, or a particular subsection of people trying to get the most out of what they want. Now, again, they're not bad people. They're just trying to do what's best for them. But they're not always thinking what's best for the country or the people. And it's very hard to be objective all the time, especially when something affects you. And I'll give you a great example of this. Just the other day, my son had a sore in his mouth, and he was like, my tooth's really sore. So we contacted our NHS dentist, and they basically said they didn't have an NHS dentist. So we were like, well, what do we do now? So we started phoning around all the dentists in our area, and none of them had an NHS dentist. And it was going to cost something like £400 for him to get this filling repaired at a private dentist. And I have no problem paying £400 to make sure my son's okay. That is not my point. I have a massive problem paying for a service that I can't access, and then I have to still pay for another service. That is my biggest problem. That is my biggest problem with the NHS right now, is I have to pay extra to access a service that I feel like I'm paying for already. And when you look at the figures of how much money the NHS gets, and you look how much it costs per each person in the country, it's 3,300 and something pounds a year we pay into a system that most of us don't even use a couple of quid of. Yet the system is still not functioning as it should. And it's incredibly frustrating to me. So with everything I do, every time I research something, especially when I research something about the NHS, I'm always looking to see why. Why is it not working the way it should? Why can't I just pick up the telephone and make a doctor's appointment? Why can't I access good healthcare? Why can't I access information about certain aspects of health very easily? Why do I have to try and research stuff? Why is it not being taught to me in school? Why is the education system not having, like, we have, physical education? Why are we not talking about health and nutrition and wellness and mental well-being and all these types of things in our schools? Why are we not getting people ready for a life of responsibility by taking responsibility for our own life? And that means taking responsibility for our health. So without me going on anymore, thank you so much for taking the time. Until next time, goodbye.